Welcome to Wash Talk, everyone, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today, we have Brenda Jane Johnstone with Women in Car Wash. Brenda, I appreciate you taking some time today for carwash.com.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Rich.
Yeah, you, as a lot of folks, I'm sure, know in the industry, preparation is underway for the 12th Women in Car Wash Conference, and the event is scheduled for January 18th through the 20th at the Hilton Clearwater Beach Resort and Spa. Well, that sounds like a lovely place to have an event, Brenda.
It sounds lovely. I haven't been there, actually. One of the alumni, and she was friends, I believe, with the owner of that hotel. So she had recommended that one as we left Fort Lauderdale last year, I suppose. So we thought we'd try out the Gulf Coast this year.
Sounds amazing. The beautiful Gulf Coast. Can't go wrong in that area for sure. But can I take you back to the beginning of this Women in Car Wash conference? Back 12 years ago, or maybe 11 or 10 years, or 13 or 14 years ago, when you were beginning the planning of the first event. Can you give us some background on the Women in Car Wash conference? How did it get started? What were its original missions, goals, and vision?
Sure. Actually, it was, we do 2 a year. So this is back to 2018, I believe, was the first one. What happened was, when I started in the industry about 25 years ago, and I went to the first couple of car wash shows and the next PEI show, and there really wasn't any women in the industry. There was a few, and I used to chum around with maybe 6 women in the industry, and the other women would kind of follow behind the men. But I think there was one show I went to, there was 2,000 to 3,000 attendees, of which 200 were women. And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, we've got to do something here. And the men really wouldn't talk to any of the women that went into the booths unless a man asked the questions. So as time went on, I started asking the girls that I knew, do you think maybe it's time we had something for women? And they said, yes, let's do something. So I said, well, we don't want a trade show. There's enough trade shows in the world. So let's do it a conference where we just have speakers, educational speakers and workshops. So the first one we held was in Niagara Falls, Ontario. We had about 45 people that attended that conference, and we had 3 speakers, I believe. And so everyone was in the room together at the same time listening to speakers. And then we started giving surveys. What did they want? Because, as an organizer, you can put anything together, but if it's not what they want, they're not going to come. So then they started saying, well, maybe we have a few more speakers to choose from. So I built onto that. So the January event, we actually have 15 speakers. So we've gone from 3 to 15. So we have an opening speaker, and then we have a number of sessions. So maybe 2 years ago, we had workshops that were 90 minutes long because they asked for more information. So we made them 90 minutes long. And after that, when they said, you know what, 90 minutes is too long, maybe we have 45-minute workshops, and we offer each workshop twice. That way we can go to more workshops. So as a result, we now have 15 workshops, and all of them are being hosted twice.
That's awesome. Yeah, apologies on that. I didn't realize, so used to covering these annual events. And so when you look back at 2018, when you first decided that, I see this gap in the industry and I want to fill it, could you have imagined, the event, and as we sit here in planning for the
Not
2026?
No, this is, when I envision having a conference, I've organized events for, almost 40 years now. And hosting events, it's a hit and miss whether the speakers are really going to be what you wanted. So the first conference, we had speakers that weren't in the industry, and we had 2 men speakers. They were received okay. People didn't mind them. The second and third conferences, we had women and men speaking. And then the girls really started telling me what they wanted. And what they didn't want is men speakers. So we don't have any men any longer. The perception was, we had one fellow, he did a great workshop. I thought it was really interesting. Afterwards, I got lambasted with the girls saying, he talked down to us like we were stupid. And I went, wow, I didn't hear that at all. But the perception was, if you're having a women's conference, don't have men speakers, because they really want the relationship building with other women. So we just have women. The majority of the speakers we have come from the industry. They know the industry, they know the companies, they know the dynamics of car washing. So we have the only speaker this time, well, two speakers, Diane Stafford, who does our predictive intelligence and emotional intelligence. She's not in the industry, but she does have customers in the industry. And then our closing speaker is Laura Esquivel, and she is from Atlas Free. So she's doing our closing. But other than that, all the speakers are in the industry.
And you mentioned, when you first started this conference, you noticed the men were working in front, the women were working behind. Maybe they were a little too shy to speak up. Have you noticed a significant difference, whether it was a confidence thing or a huge, as a result of the
difference? There, what I found out, there's a lot of women that work in the real estate side of car washing. There's a number of women that are working in the chemistry they have so many letters after their name. It's kind of frightening how smart these girls are. There's a lot of women now that I'm finding that are owning washes, managing washes, head of maintenance, like so many more women in the industry. And there's a lot of the young girls that came to the first couple of conferences who are now site managers, regional managers, maintenance managers, training managers, who when they started came in and they were really shy. There was a couple of the girls that came in and they sat in the back corner, and I'd say, no, that's not that. You got to come and sit up here. And I would put them at tables with more senior women. Those same girls now are running sites.
Yeah, just personally in my life, the people that have had the biggest impact on me, both professionally and personally, have been all women. So I definitely am on board with pushing women to the forefront as leaders, and certainly they're more than capable, obviously. But outside of the speakers and the number of speakers, how else has this conference evolved over the years?
Well, what's interesting is Facebook and LinkedIn, open forums. Through the evolution of the conference itself, there were a few men that on these open forums were saying things like, why do we need this? You're dividing everyone. The women don't need a conference. And I'm thinking, of course, that this is on an open forum, right? Like you're just telling everybody how shallow you are. And then I exhibited at the Northeast Regional show a couple of times. And we have a very plain booth. We have a band rep and we have postcards, and we had a couple of the girls working the booth, and we had our Women in Car Wash t-shirts on, which are not revealing at all. And there's certainly not wet t-shirt contests, and there was two older gentlemen that stopped by the booth at different times. And one of them said, oh yeah, Women in Car Wash. Yeah. When I think of that, I think of women in wet t-shirts draped across soapy cars. And I'm going, what? Are you kidding me? What year is this? And that another fellow, he stopped by and he went, oh yeah, you're the girls that you hire the girls out for grand openings, right? That they wear the wet t-shirts. I went, oh good God, like what year are we in here, people? So they walk among us. They're still out there. But I think that the conference, because we really don't have any competition, it's the only Women in Car Wash conference that I'm aware of. The girls have really taken ownership to this. We have a newsletter now. We've just started a podcast. We have our second podcast scheduled for November 14th, I believe, where we're going to have, different women from the industry. We're going to talk about how they got where they are, what they're doing in the industry, and how the conference has perhaps changed their outlook on car washing. It's no longer male-dominated industry. There's a lot of really smart women working in this industry.
So obviously these conferences have had a major impact on the attendees. Do you have any testimonials or any feedback that attendees have given you, Brenda?
I sure do. So I can read a few of these.
Okay.
So these are pretty much the alumni. So to give you some information, so we capped this at 100. So for the January event now, of the almost 80 people that have registered, almost 40 of those are repeat people.
Oh, wow.
So we have a huge repeat, which we call our alumni. The alumni, we have different t-shirt colors. So when you see the photos and there's the two different colors, the one color is all the alumni that have been to almost every event. Most of them have been to all of the events, which is pretty unusual.
Yeah, that's a testimonial in and of itself,
Right?
So-
Okay, so here's one. As a regular attendee at this conference, I'm continually impressed by how open and willing all participants are to share ideas, best practices, leadership strategies, while also building friendships, even though we may be competitors outside of the conference. This supportive and uplifting atmosphere inspires personal growth and boosts my confidence each time I attend. And that's Marianne Irvine from London, Matt.
Thanks.
So Carla's with Caliber Carwash, and she said, I had the privilege of hosting the Revamp or Risk is Your Employee Handbook Up to Date at the 11th Semi-Annual Win and Car Wash Conference this past January. It was a fantastic opportunity to dive into the key considerations for employee handbooks covering federal, state, local, and cultural perspectives. Beyond the session content, I truly enjoyed engaging with attendees, answering a variety of HR compliance questions, and sharing insights from my 18 years in HR. It was an honor to be a part of such a meaningful discussion and to contribute to the ongoing success of car wash industry professionals.
Very nice.
The collaboration and feeling of trust was the best representation of women in car wash. I want more. Mary Hamilton, DNS Car Wash. This event is paramount in supporting and training successful women in our industry. Highly recommend to any woman who feels outnumbered or alone. These women are amazing. Jessica Newberry, Mammoth Holdings. So that's the kind of response that we get from these women. Through all of the conferences, I haven't had any of the surveys come back saying, I hated everything about it. I'm never coming again. We've never had that. Generally, what comes back is suggestions for the type of workshops that they want or speaker ideas from the industry.
Very nice. Yeah, and you mentioned the group photo. It's always great, right? You guys all take a group photo at every conference. And I notice a lot of familiar faces for sure that I've seen in the industry and at the trade shows. But I also see a lot of new faces. So what do you think about this next generation of women coming into the car wash industry? What can you tell from them attending the conference and what the future of women in car wash looks like?
I think it's a pretty exciting time if you're a young woman and you've gotten into the car washing industry, because really the sky is the limit. It used to be just guys got in the industry, or maybe it was a transient industry where you got your first job and then you did that until you started your career. It is the career now. And these girls are starting at the bottom. They might be, the guy on the line that's, doing the prep on the cars. And they're now moving up and they're getting into management roles and district management roles. So I think if you're a young girl getting into the industry, this is a pretty exciting time.
So if I'm a first-time attendee and I'm planning to come into the Women in Car Wash conference and here in January, again, that's January 18th through the 20th, what can I expect? How can I best prepare myself now to get the most out of my attendance?
I think come with a notebook and be prepared to be amazed at the information that you're going to gather. We give, we have a professional head and shoulder photo for all the girls that come in. We have a photographer, but we also give attendee booklets that has a photo, their bio, and their personal contact information. So I think that if you're coming into the conference for the first time, you're going to go out knowing 99 more women in the industry, because if you're coming in a group, it's not that we don't let you, but we don't recommend you sit with your team. We want everybody spaced out. We don't recommend that if you're sending a group of people that you all take the same workshops. We want everybody on their own so that you're learning and asking questions. The workshops are limited to 35 people per workshop to make sure that they're engaging and that everyone participates, because if they're too large, nobody will ask a question or they don't have time to ask a question. So we keep them small and intimate. Everyone stays together for the entire conference. So you really will get the best experience because you're going to know everybody by the end of it.
Do you have any advice? You've mentioned that this industry has historically been a male-dominated industry, and certainly we see a lot of companies out there and that want to celebrate women. Do you have any advice for companies that want to elevate women and celebrate women in this industry, but maybe just don't know how?
I think asking what the women would want is a really good place to start. You can't. Years ago, I went to a golf tournament in the convenience store industry. And afterwards, they phoned and they said, well, we don't have many women. What do you expect that we should do to get more women? And I said, well, treat them like women, not like men. If you're going to give people uniforms, make sure you have female and male versions of a uniform because we're different. If you're going to have training sessions, make sure you're not just having men do the training. Invite the women for their input. There's a lot of really smart girls in the industry. Ask them for their input because they do know stuff.
All right. So very good, Brenda. I know your main focus here is on this January installment of the Women in Car Wash Conference. But as you look ahead in the next few years, what are your goals? How do you see this event continuing to improve and evolve with the trends in the market?
What I would like to be able to do is with the alumni group, I was going to try it for January, but it's not going to work yet for January. What I want to do is have the conference basically split in two. So we've got a management component. So those that are in management, that we could have management type workshops as opposed to workshops that everybody can attend. I'd like to split it so that we get the new people coming in that are maybe being mentored by the alumni. We have an alumni group now. We have a few of them that are mentoring younger girls, but I'd like to split the conference so that we have the management side and the entry level workshops, if you will.
That sounds interesting. All right, sounds good. So Brenda, just one last thing, is there a website, a phone number, an email address? If I'm interested in attending this upcoming conference, where do I go to get signed up and book my?
All the information on all of the speakers, the workshops, the registration, and the hotel booking is all at www.womenincarwash.com. If you want to email me, it's bjj@womenincarwash.com. Phone number 204-489-4215.
Sounds good. I appreciate you taking a few moments here with carwash.com to do this podcast, Brenda. Sounds like it's going to be a great event here in January. I look forward to getting the press release and the group photo, hopefully sometime in late January, early November. I know you're on top of those post-show recaps.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rich. I appreciate it, and see everyone in January.